How to, cousins? It's old Rusty here. I'm what they call a reseller. I don't love that term, but it's what I do. I buy things and I resell them and try to make a little bit of profit for myself. Today's video is going to be very similar to many others, but also different in some ways. What we're really going to do today is just show you some categories of items that we're throwing in the eBay store right now. Tell you a little bit about them. Maybe you can learn something. But there are certain categories out there, folks, that items sell very well in. They have a very high, what they call a sell-through rate. That's what number of these percentage of those available are selling in a specific period of time. We're going to cover that, and we're going to show you some cool stuff we've got right now that we're listing in the store. Please join us, and let's get to it. I was out this last weekend in Nashville, Tennessee, visiting some friends, and while I was out there, I actually had a chance to go out to a couple of antique stores just to see what was out there. And, it's Music City, so you're seeing a lot of the same things. I found tons of old clothes, tons of old belt buckles, lots of trucker hats. You kind of saw the same themes, but I came across one booth that had various small lots of various dice. And, I got these dice, if you're not aware of different categories, are some things that seem pretty inconspicuous. They don't seem like they would maybe have much value. They're probably mass-produced. They're made out of plastic. They've been made for a long time. And all of those things I just said are correct, except for that they don't have much value. Dice sell all the time, and there are certain makers, certain types, certain color schemes that bring really, really big values. There's a brand called Chessex, I guess, Chessex, that produces stuff that sell into the hundreds of dollars for a single set of dice, if you can believe it. And I believe that this is an example of some of their work. You can see that these are like this kind of iridescent swirl color, very beautiful blues and purples, as you can see, with a gold color inside there, and it says 2012. I guess these were made in 2012, but these are an example of like a higher end set of dice. You've got stuff right like these that are semi-translucent, and anytime I find older ones that are like this semi-translucent, I test them for Bakelite. I use something called semi-chrome polish, and it's like a soft pink color. It should turn yellow or bright orange if it is in fact Bakelite, which is just an old form of plastic. It has, I believe it has ammonia in it. Is that right? Something like that. Formaldehyde. Something like that. Anyways, it's an interesting type. They use it in all kinds of jewelry and stuff. I tested these. Unfortunately, they are not. So they're not old enough. They're just made to look older. But you see, I've got different sets here, different sizes. Here's a 20-sided die. We've got other ones that you can see here. The 6 and the 9 are underlined separately, so you know which is which. Greens, translucent oranges, and then a couple of perplexing ones. Here's another one of those beautiful kind of purpley swirl kinds. I'm not sure who makes that. This one baffled me. It's got all these interesting symbols on them and numbers and shapes. I really don't know, folks, what this is for. My assumption is that it's for a particular, maybe like a board game, which is where you find dice sometimes. And then here's a cool triangular sort of one. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. It's got this really cool, like, goldish, sparkly situation happening there. But the point is, I'll probably, I was buying bags of 4 or 5 for $3 to $5 a piece. I can take a set like this and maybe sell this for $10 to $12, and that's if it's not terribly valuable. But if I get some other ones that are a little bit nicer, they could sell for dozens of dollars. So if you come across baggies of old dice, you should take a chance on it. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with what you might be able to get out of them. Ones that are more unique colors, basic ones like this are not going to draw nearly as much. as some of these more exotic colors and shapes. I was quite excited, folks. Yesterday I went on and met with somebody on Facebook Marketplace, of all places, to purchase a lot of pocket watches and other items associated with these. And so what you're looking at here, folks, are a variety of these watches that I picked up yesterday. You're going to see some of these common brands: Waltham, Hamilton, and others. But see, I got these little small ones. I kind of set up. These are more ladies' sizes. You got a Waltham here. Got the backs open. Sometimes they unscrew, and other times they just pop open with your, use your thumbnail. They can be tough sometimes, so be careful. I've broken my nails many times trying to open pocket watches in the past. Some of them are open-faced like this with no closure. The cool thing about this particular lot was that they belonged to a doctor who lived in Chicago. And so a lot of them are monogrammed or written. That one says, "To Dr. Williams, gratefully," and then it has a date on it or has some initials. This one's got a really nice etched back here. None of these are solid gold, unfortunately. You're always hoping for a score like that, but they are, most of them are gold filled. And so what I've done is I've gone through and I've taken the backs off, or I've opened them up. I've recorded down the serial numbers and the brand so that I can go online and figure out what the movements are and if they're very valuable. I found a couple interesting things in this lot. So these are all kind of basic watches. Some of them are in working condition, some of them aren't. This one's missing the glass over the crystal over it. It broke at some point in time. Others are in much better shape. So there were a couple of cool things. I'll move down here. I got this really nice pocket watch chain. It's gold filled, but it's a really nice heavy duty thing. Really cool design on the chain. And this was gorgeous. This came on one of them as if it was made to be on it, and it's not. This is just a brooch. It's just a pin. And at some point in time, someone put it on there. It was really dirty when I got it. It had a lot of residue left over from polishing in the past. But what you're looking at, folks, is this little brooch. And it's definitely an Art Nouveau style of a woman with hair, really flowy hair and big tassel earrings. You have a small stones up here as well. That red one is a ruby, and the black ones I'm assuming are maybe onyx, possibly glass. And then right here where her ear would be, or just below the actually part of the earring, would have had another stone there. It would have either been a ruby or maybe a clear stone. It's missing. It has fallen out, unfortunately. But this is a gold-filled piece, and you can't quite tell unless I were to move it over. Maybe I'll move it with my thumbnail. But so you've got this old C-type clasp there. You pop this out. You move it up and out of the way here, if I can do so with just one hand. All right, so I've opened that up. And then you've got this little piece here that could just like slip down onto something. But if I use my thumbnail and I move it over, bend it out of the way, it reveals, and I actually need to turn it upside down, it reveals underneath that there's some letters. It says F and B. And that is a maker's mark of a company, and the company that made this was called Foster and Bailey. And they had a couple different names for their company depending on when they were in operation. But this piece is dated to have been produced sometime between 1878 and 1898. So it is a very old piece, gold-filled piece, beautiful. I'm trying to decide if I want to put a stone in there to make it complete, or if I'm going to try to sell it as it is. But a piece like this, gold-filled, kind of unique, still has most of its stone in it, probably going to sell for $100 or more. If that was solid gold, it'd be much more valuable. Some really fascinating things about a couple of these pieces is this. I've never come across one before. It says Gallet, I guess is the brand. Got this interesting kind of like, honey colored numbers here and stuff, like a cream colored face. A really dark and sort of ugly case, to be honest with you. I don't know if this was made to be brass or copper or what, but it's kind of definitely tarnished over time. But the thing is, it's quite heavy, and when you open it up, you discover, if I'm able to do so, you pop open, it's a double case here, right? And then if you open up this portion, it lets you see the movement. But this movement is very interesting. Do you see those interesting little metal coils all the way around the movement? That's unusual, folks. I'd never seen one like it before. I'm going to try to get in here. You can see it says 15 jewels, Gallet, Swiss. Now, when I saw Swiss, I got excited because Swiss movements are considered to be some of the best movements ever created for pocket watches and such. But I started tinkering around with the top of this and trying to see if it would work and all this stuff. And let me see if I can get it to do it. If you pop this thing up, listen to what happens. Let me see if I can get it. Come on now. I'm going to switch hands and see if I can do it. So this part here, you can push. If I push it down, watch this hand right here. See how that's going backwards on that chronograph part? But if I can unpull it and turn it, let's see if I can get it to do it. Yeah, listen to that. Hold on. It rings. So I've discovered as I looked at it that this is like a pocket watch, like alarm clock. It's like like an alarm stopwatch type of a thing. Never come across one. Really interesting. The only one I found that's currently available for sale that was in working condition on eBay, they were asking $495 and they had like 20 some watchers. So that it could potentially be a nice piece. But I gotta talk with someone to make sure it's operating correctly. Moving over here, the only wristwatch timepiece that we got was this, and it's a brand. It was also one I'm not familiar with, Vulcane Cricket, and it turns out that this is also a stopwatch type watch, a wristwatch type thing. And these are also selling for quite good money. Sometimes they're solid gold. This one is a stainless steel back, but it says underneath of the band right here, yeah, I don't know if I can get zoomed in close enough to see, but there's a stamp right here by my thumb that says it's 10 karat rolled gold. Right here too by my thumb, right there above it, it's stamped. 1/20th, 10K gold filled. So it's a gold filled watch band, and the tops are gold filled, the back is stainless steel. It's not currently operating, so I'm actually going to take it to a watchmaker today and see if they can do some work to get into operating condition. This one also in good condition can sell for hundreds of dollars. Okay, but the most perplexing piece of all, folks, is this one right here. It is a very beautiful looking watch. You can see some heavy wear right there, which tells me before I even inspect it further that this is a gold filled watch. Why? Well, because if this was solid gold or a solid metal, it wouldn't have this heavy wear down to just a flat copper or brass, underneath piece, because the outside is much shinier. So this is a gold-filled piece. Is it for a 10-year? Is it a 20-year, 25-year? Well, I wouldn't know until I open it up in the back. But here's what's interesting. I will open up the back here and show you because I want to show you. So I take the back off. Look at this just beautiful movement. Incredible. The expertise, the work, the craftsmanship on these just never ceases to astound me. But as I pull it over, look at this brand name here. It doesn't say Waltham or Elgin or Hamilton or any of those obvious ones. It says like Roediger or maybe Roediger Brothers and Company. And then if I turn it over and I look at the movement itself, we see that it is etched from the same company, Roediger maybe, Brothers and Company, Belleville, Illinois. It does have a number for a serial number right there at the top on the movement, but it doesn't say how many jewels are in it, and there's no additional information. Now, I've never come across this brand of a pocket watch before, and I've handled hundreds of pocket watches. I've also seen many more and done research on many more, but this would screw on as it is. It's a nice piece. It's a size 16, okay? So I'm going to take this with the wristwatch today and have them look at it and tell me. The movement looks very reminiscent of ones made by the Illinois watch brand. I don't think that they were from Belleville, though. I thought that was from another location, and usually it would just say the brand up here. What I'm wondering is either this is just such an obscure watchmaker that there aren't many available, because there are none by this brand available on eBay, and I couldn't find any information on Google either, or what's maybe more likely is that this is made by the Illinois or another major manufacturer, and what happened is, since this was a doctor and probably had pretty good funds, he may have had them make one for the name of his choosing on the face and on the thing. It's what they call white labeling, folks. It's where you buy something that's produced by someone else, but you agree when you get it from them that you will be able to put your own name on it, oftentimes in order to sell yourself. So they make their money, and then you sort of rebrand it as your own. This would be a very early example of this, as I think that this movement is probably somewhere between, 1908 and the teens. But stay tuned. Whenever I find out information on this, I will get back to you. Not exactly sure what all of this is going to go for, but I paid $525 for everything that you're seeing here. For eight pocket watches, a wristwatch, a brooch, 9, and then this pocket watch chain and fob. So if I'm just going to get half of what this is selling for and this is selling for, then I will have made my money back, because this is around $500. This is around $500. So if I sell these two for half, then I've made my $500 and some change back. And then I still have these 7 pocket watches, this brooch, and this chain to sell. And that's where I'll make my profit. Would you look at this little guy that I found today out in the antique store? If I turn her over here on the bottom, you're going to see a brand name pop up, and that brand name would be Dunhill. Dunhill, and you've got a patent number or a model number of this particular type. Here, what are we looking at? Well, we're looking at a lighter. If you pop the top off here like that, you'll see it says Dunhill again. This has definitely been used over time. Based on the serial number and the size of it, this type of lighter is called a Rollalite. The taller ones are often called roller gas, but these utilize fluid that you would unscrew this and put the fluid in for lighting it. It has a flint in here, and this is the spot where you would light it. I don't even think it will even spark for me hardly. Nope. So the flint is, there we go. But there's no fluid in it. But the idea is, rather than a Zippo where you would do this motion, you do this from the side. And so this is for people who smoke things, and this is a cool piece. They wanted $65 for it, and I had them call the dealer, and they offered $50, and I paid $50 for it. That's a lot of money, folks, for this. I kind of broke my rules. I just don't come across Dunhill lighters out in the wild very often, and so I was kind of excited. This is probably going to sell in the $80 or $90 range. Not going to get a ton of profit off of it. The thing with these, you got to be careful. I mean, sometimes if you find something that's a good price, you're like, well, shoot, I'll keep it or whatever. I could use a cool looking lighter or something that I'd hold on to. But you got to be careful. These have they look very simple, but there's actually a lot going on in here. A lot of different parts and components that utilize positioning and screws and such. And these older ones over time can sometimes get to where they leak. That fluid will evaporate out, or it will leak out, and it ends up not being good. You can have them serviced certain places, but it can cost quite a bit of money. I know that there are a lot of buyers in Japan actually who buy these and refurbish them and then go back out and try to sell them on eBay and places like that refurbished. So if you want a nice example of this that's refurbished, that's a good bet to go. But it was just cool to see this in person just while I was out doing some sourcing today. Well, folks, what you're looking at here is a combination of two separate collections of vintage, I call them estate, tobacco pipes. Now, everyone knows that, pipes are out there. Most people probably know that there may be a collectability market when it comes to these. That is true. There are certain things, though, that you should look for. Brand name is important on pipes. If ideally you can find one of big names like Dunhill, which we just discussed with the lighter, or some other, well-known names of nicer brand pipes like Savinelli or Sir Jacopo, or you know, there's several actually, and you can even get into like hand carved, handmade pipes by artisans like Eric Nording and people like that. These are not those. These are all going to be pipes produced sometime in probably the 1920s at the earliest, all the way up into most likely the 1970s. However, there are some things here that are nice. I want to just kind of evaluate a few things. Let's just choose this one as an idea of an example to look at first. So you got this pipe. You can probably tell that this doesn't have a major bend in the pipe. It's more straight, isn't it? Well, that's exactly what you would call this type of pipe. You would call it a straight pipe. Now, all of these pipes here that you're looking at are made of briar wood. Briar wood is actually cut from the root balls from a particular plant. So this wood would have been originally underground. It was dug up, cut up, the bark and stuff removed, sanded or cut down into blocks that they would then drill holes in, one hole down this way and then another hole, a smaller one, through. And they come in blocks that are like rectangular cubes almost, and that's what people carve them out of or sand them down. All right, I think we got in a better spot here. So the wood, as you can see, this wood has got some very beautiful grain in it. It's kind of flattened off at the bottom. You see a little bit of the bird's eye kind of look there with that grain from this direction. And you pull it up, really sweet. Now you'll notice in here there's some carven words. It says Pall Mall Choice Briar. Pall Mall's the brand name. Oftentimes, if you want to try to find a brand, you want to look on the side of this portion, which is called the shank, or you want to look on the underside down here. The shank, or sometimes there will be a band like this made out of metal. Other times there might be a marking on the shank or on the stem itself, which I'll show you in a couple of other examples in a moment. What you want to see is, ideally you want to see a stem that is flat, that comes out not super, crooked, right? You want to know that it fit a particular way and still fits that way. Ideally, the stem is not chewed up to bits, right? This has definitely got chew marks and stuff. That's from a person's teeth. It really is. And then, if it has a band, you want to inspect the band. Now, you're going to find something really pleasant here when we zoom in on this one. What? It says 14K solid gold. That's right, folks. This is a solid gold band on this vintage pipe. You may not have known that there could be gold or silver on vintage pipes. Well, there is. Sometimes the bands are made of sterling silver or gold, and sometimes they're marked that way, and that can add to the value of something. This particular bowl has seen better days, hasn't it? It has been smoked down quite a bit. You've got some heavy char on the top, to the point where the heat over time has caused a small crack there, and a gigantic crack here. I did not buy this pipe individually. Had I had the opportunity to buy it individually, I would not have bought it because of the condition issues. So condition is one of those things you really need to check. Just like all things, you want to get something in the best possible condition. But it is a brand that is known. It does have the brand is known. The band on here is made of solid gold. That has some collectability value, which is nice. Here's another that came in this same lot. Again, it's the same brand, Pall Mall. It says Choice Briar. Again, we have a band that's gold color. Let's rotate and take a look. What do we got here? Boom, 14K, solid gold. So 2 back-to-back pipes. But I think that you'll notice, folks, if I start to show you, again, we've got some very pretty grain on this, some nice bird's eye kind of, not as much of the striping look as the other, but yeah, a little bit here on the shank down there. Now, this stem is not fitting in there perfectly. I might have to push it in. We'll see a little bit further. Definitely some heavy chew on the stem. That's not ideal. But the bowl, folks, looks fantastic. Definitely char on the top, but I'm not seeing any cracks coming down on the bowl. That could be cleaned a little bit. And I think we're off to the races. This is a really good example of a vintage pipe that's got some collectability. It's got a gold band. I'm excited about it. A couple others so you see different examples. This style of bowl here with this ridge around would be considered more of a bulldog style, but it is still a straight, quote-unquote, straight pipe. This is by a brand called Mastercraft, the popular. And it has a little silver colored medallion there, probably sterling silver, though it doesn't say it. And I will get out some polish. We got some silver cream polish here that I'm going to use to polish that puppy up. This stem is a very interesting shape. Look at that. The shank is a square shape, almost more like a diamond, honestly, as it comes out. That's a cool thing. We've got a little bit of some condition issues with some pits and some areas here on the wood. This briar is probably not the highest quality briar, though it does have a nice little grain pattern, but just there's little holes and little imperfections in it that have materialized over time. But the bowl itself is in pretty good shape, and you could get rid of some of that char. You could buff that out on the top a little bit. That's a decent little piece. Let's go to another one or two. Okay, so here is another straight. We've got a lot of these straights down here in the bottom. This one is also a Mastercraft. It says Synchromatic. Some really nice darker brown color, but look how tall that bowl is. It's quite large. And then on the other side of the shank here, it has some more writing. It says Algerian briar from France. So the briar is from Algeria, apparently, which is in Africa. And then it was probably created in France, probably imported to France, and then they carved it out. Really cool. We got a little metal band here that could be polished a little bit. And then you've got right here on the top of this mouthpiece here, you can see a small emblem, and it looks like a crown. See if I can get that to zoom in. Do you see that little crown? So this one's not colored, it's just etched. You know, if you weren't looking real closely, you might miss it entirely. One more of these straights here, just because I think it's a cool shape of the bowl. Look how they sanded that out into this little design. It's also a much lighter color than, and this is just the stain, folks. It's just a lighter stain. But the stem here is in really good shape, and it says Genuine Briar Mastercraft Popular. So it's another Mastercraft brand, several of those same brands. This is an interesting one right here because it's got leather all around the bowl. That's to help insulate it so it doesn't get too hot. This would have been, it looks like it says Hilson maybe brand. Some made in Belgium. And it says white cap on the stem here. But this substance is not wood. It's ceramic. So the ceramic would have gotten too hot in your hands, so they surround it with this stitched leather. It's an interesting look for sure. And then if we look at some of these others here, we've got some bent ones. This one has got a nice silver band on it, which I have polished this morning. You can see it's nice and beautiful. Look at this, how this has been sandblasted and kind of worked, kind of chiseled out for a different look. Usually they do this on briar pieces that are not as high quality. They don't have the nice grain, so they mask it by giving it texture and making it look interesting. That's a Pall Mall brand, it says there, Choice Briar. A nice silver band. In fact, if you zoom in here real close, if I can get the light in the right spot for you, it actually says sterling. Sterling, and it has, again, a little emblem right there. That didn't show it super well. And then we have a couple. This is an example of where you might find a little marking on the stem. And this marking, particular one, goes to the K. Woody brand. This is the K. Woody. It's the drinkless. On the other side of the stem, it's going to say that it's imported briar, and it's going to have a serial number or a code. And some of those letters refer to the style of the pipe. Some of them refer to the model. Some of them refer to color or different qualities of the wood at times, depending on the maker. But that's a really, I love how dark that is at the back of the bowl. You know, carving these to show certain areas of the wood from certain directions and stuff is actually an art form. Nothing is by chance. They carve it out to look a specific way. And then here's a nicer one. The stem, terrible shape, but because of the way it's made, could probably get a pretty easy replacement. And the brand name here is Savinelli. So we have a nicer a brand here, a little bit of a newer example of a pipe. But pipes, folks, sell very well. I looked at it today, and the sell-through rate on pipes is at 89% right now. How do I find that? Well, you go to eBay, you look up vintage pipe, and it'll say, hey, there's 8,800 vintage pipes for sale on eBay today. Then you go over and you click sold, and it will then show you all of the items that have sold with the title that has the words vintage pipe in it over the last 90 days. And you know how many have sold? 7,900. If you divide that 7,900 into the 8,800, you get 89%, which means if you put up something for sale, 89% of the ones that are for sale are going to sell every 90 days in a 90-day period. That's a huge sell-through rate. That's why I love buying and selling pipes. Look at this old knife here, this old dagger. Look at the all that right there, how it's all carved wood and brass. This is the real deal, folks. It's a real blade. Look at this, how it's been sharpened over time and used. Oh my goodness, I got done watching the Shogun show, and man, people stabbing themselves and stuff with daggers. Oh my goodness. I'll tell you what, this is the real deal. This is what they call a Berber knife. And they would carry these. I don't have the sheath with it, but even in the condition that it's in, this is probably going to fetch me somewhere in the, $90 to $120 range, even without. But it's quite sharp still, folks. It really is. You can see where it's been hand sharpened there. Really cool. Found this just in a thrift store. Oh man, the things that people will... Now, it wasn't out on the shelf. It was back in a case, of course. They didn't want people accidentally falling and impaling themselves or threaten other customers. But what a cool piece of history. I love finding old artifacts and old items like this. I can't wait to get it up for sale. Thank you guys for sticking around today. We're going to have a bunch more next week, but we just wanted to try to bring a couple things to mind. If these are categories of things that you've never sold before, maybe you've got some at home right now that you don't need, and you think, maybe I could throw those up for sale. We're all just trying to find ways to stay ahead, whether this is a side hustle or a full-time job. We're all about just trying to educate people. I hope it helps. If you got some comments or some thoughts, some ideas for us that can help us out, please send those our way. We'd be very much appreciative. Also, don't forget to check out our other real active YouTube channel called What's Sold. And we also have a podcast called the What's Sold Podcast, where we go into all this stuff as well. That's a little something for you to take on later in the week. But for now, we got to say bye. Take care, folks. Beep-doop, boop, boop. Let's go make some money. Rusty, 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 how to. Rusty, 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 how to. Rusty, 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 how to. Rusty.